Hello, and welcome to 218 Time, a podcast by two guys with an approximate knowledge of many things. I'm Feet,
I'm Tommy.
and as always, we're here to talk about whatever we want, because that's just how it be. How you doing, Tommy? What have you been up to?
I'm doing well. I picked up a new game recently, BioShock.
Oh, okay. A pretty popular series.
Yeah, so a few months back, I think PS4 they have like a set of like two free games every month, and they had the entire BioShock collection. And I was like, I don't see why not. And I just got to it now because I got a lot of time on my hands. So I started it last night at like midnight, played for a couple hours, woke up this morning and beat it.
Awesome. And what'd you think?
I thought it was pretty good. I thought it had some really, really good parts, and it had some really poor parts. But for people who don't know, which I'm sure is very few, BioShock is like I don't even know what I would call it. Some people called it a horror game. It has like one or two scenes that's like kind of scary.
Yeah, I would argue it has horror elements, but they're mild.
It's kind of I don't even know what I would call it. Like, it's a shooter. You're going through this like underwater city called Rapture, and it's very 50s. Like, it has a very Art Deco style, I think. Is it Art Deco? It is Art Deco. Okay. It's got some Fallout vibes to it, but that's just because like you'll be like in complete silence, and then all of a sudden like maybe will come on, and it's got that going for it sometimes.
Yeah, it's got a cool world to it
Yeah.
from my understanding of the three games that are out.
I will say the world building for it was probably my favorite part. Like the implied lore and like the findable like voice journals and diaries and stuff was really, really cool. And it's got some cool other elements to it. Like, you get these special powers called plasmids and stuff, and they all do really, really cool stuff. I'm not gonna say it's the best polished game I've ever played, but it's up there. It was well done. There wasn't really any part that made me really, really angry, except for one part later in the game that was just an escort mission where also your field of view was like reduced greatly.
Ugh, that sounds disgusting.
But it was a lot of fun. Probably a solid like 8 out of 10.
The games, they're a vibe, as they say.
Yeah, definitely. A big part of playing the game is just the aesthetic aspect of it.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. You're there kind of for the atmosphere, not necessarily. I mean, the gameplay is great too, but a lot of it is you're there for the atmosphere and like.
Yeah, it very much builds like an interesting and kind of unsettling world, which is pretty cool. That not everything can succeed at, but there are certain things out there that really hit that sweet spot,
Yeah, it's got that dope isolationist vibe.
Of course. I've actually been thinking about that lately.
Really?
Because, in the current world we live in, I still don't know when these are coming out, but it's been a little lonely lately, I would say. Got me thinking about a little old meme that came out about a year ago, I think, as of this recording at least, called the Backrooms.
Oh yes, yes, I'm a big fan of the Backrooms. It's kind of like a creepypasta type thing, very SCP-esque, even though it's not technically an SCP.
So, the post puts it pretty well, I think. I will say, pretty creepy topic. Fair warning for those who might not enjoy that kind of stuff. I would tune out now. It's been nice having you come back next week. The original post says, if you're not careful and you no-clip out of reality in the wrong areas, you'll end up in the back rooms, where it's nothing but the stink of old moist carpet, the madness of mono yellow, the endless background noise of fluorescent lights at maximum hum buzz, and approximately 600 million square miles of randomly segmented empty rooms to be trapped in. God save you if you hear something wandering around nearby, because it sure as hell has heard you. There's a picture that goes along with that maybe we'll tweet out with this to give some reference.
Like, the general vibe is it's like yellow wallpaper, like either striped or with little designs on it. That ceiling with like the tiles and the fluorescent lights, and then like just dingy carpet, and then the hum of the fluorescent lights constantly going on, and it kind of just goes on forever, and then there are like little creatures and stuff. But after that, it kind of just blew up, and now there's a lot of lore to it.
I mean, there's different levels. And it all starts on level 0, which is what Tommy just described, and was kind of the original thing that people just latched onto, because I think it gives this, like, feeling of a distant memory.
Yeah, like you feel like you've been there before.
Yeah. So level 0 is pretty basic. I think it's just that, and I know there's electrical outlets, most of which probably won't work.
Mm-hmm. You have to consistently check the time.
Yes, you have to keep your grip on reality, because this place will make you go insane. Who knows how long you might be in there? We'll get into it as we get to some of the other levels, but you might be in there for like years.
Mm-hmm.
There's like multiple entrances and exits, but it's not that simple, I guess. Because part of it's survival beyond just insanity, because there are some creatures in there.
Yeah.
They have names, but they're still pretty vague, which I appreciate, because they're not like SCP creatures, they're just kind of their own creature things. We're gonna go down it, but for those interested, there's a whole wiki about this.
So one thing I do want to say before we get too deep into this is there are two different, I guess you could almost call them like camps or schools of thought toward the Backrooms. There's one which is like the super deep lore, like with like all the different floors, like they have like descriptions of, I believe, like upwards of like the 20th floor, right?
Oh, it goes far beyond that. There's stuff up into the 40s, then there's a couple in the hundreds, then there's something that is near infinity, then there's negative levels.
Yeah, or 1.5.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's another school of thought who very much believe that the Backrooms should stay as like the top three levels, which is 0, 1, and 2, and should stay very vague.
Which is kind of a nice thing about it, is that most people seem to agree that those first three are confirmed no matter what. Like, whether you have that stuff, other stuff or not, like, those are the main three that is quote-unquote documented. Because those three are pretty solid.
Yeah, I actually will say level 2 is disputed too.
Really?
Some people just believe that level 2 is just a far more warped version of levels 0 and 1, and then there are people who believe that level 2 is like, what's it called, has like different tribes of people who are lost there, like a tribe of adults and then a tribe of like children who like kick the people out into the tribe of adults and stuff.
Right, there's like societies in some of these levels, which is
Yeah.
weird. Yeah, so level 1 is a variation on level 0, where it's like similar-ish, but there are times where the lights will go out periodically, and they can be out for a long time, and that's when like the monsters come for you. So that's fun. Then I don't think there's anything else super special about level 1. It's very arbitrary when and how you get there. It's just kind of there's multiple ways to get there. A lot of the descriptions of going between levels is often people just falling through the floor.
Going through like falling through walls and stuff like that. Actually, there's a YouTuber, for anybody who wants to look, called Evan Royalty. He like made a live action SCP short film, and he also made a Backrooms short film using GTA, which is very well made, and I highly recommend looking at it. I actually honestly recommend looking at almost all of his stuff. He has also 2 SCP things using GTA as the medium, and my personal favorite is the second SCP one, because there's just this really goofy part where this guy's in like this foggy city and there's this thing running by him with like a refrigerator for a head or something, and it's just like humming a tune. It's so weird and bizarre. I highly recommend looking at it. He makes fantastic stuff.
I will say, I've seen the Backrooms one, and it might sound like this guy's videos are a little corny or cheesy, but he does a very good job.
Yeah, he only has like something like, I'm gonna guess probably 50, 60 videos, but they're like, especially recently, the production value is like insane.
The whole community for this kind of stuff, just creepypastas in general, is very, very dedicated. And there's some really impressive stuff out there. We'll get deeper into SCP one day down the line, but even the Backrooms community on its own is just very, like, committed.
Oh, yeah.
So, we described level 0 and level 1. How would you describe level 2?
Level 2, it seems a little bit more industrial looking. It literally says level 2 consists of millions of miles of industrial maintenance tunnels. By the way, the absolute scale that the Backrooms is supposed to be is, like, insane. It's, like, hundreds of millions of square miles. And they argue that it could be infinite.
Yeah, because, you know, so much of it has been documented, but there's so much we don't understand.
To put it into perspective, the Earth, the entirety of the Earth, and that includes the oceans, is 197 million square miles. So this thing is supposed to be just absolutely astronomically big, which just kind of makes it really cool too, because that's what it kind of adds to like the people, like people can just like talk about as much as they want and stuff, and they can like add whatever they want, because the thing is there's a very, very little chance that if you add something new, it's really going to cross over with something somebody else added, which is once again kind of similar to SCP, where it's like you can kind of do whatever you want.
The second level is very different than the first couple, but the first three definitely feel very focused, I want to say, overall.
It has a very big feeling of isolation and the off chance that you're going to find something that you do not want to find.
Yeah, it speaks to that, to like kind of certain fears, you know? And the implication in it is, not even an implication, the outright statement is that most people will get there eventually, and if you go there once, you are most likely going to go back there again at some point, whether you want to or not.
Yeah.
And you could be in there for 10 minutes, or you could be in there for 10 years.
I also will say, if you're looking for information on the Backrooms, go to the Backrooms wiki. Do not go to the subreddit. The subreddit is not that great.
That is disappointing. What's not great about it?
Well, it's just people kind of just like sharing pictures of places that kind of look like they could be Backroomsy, which is cool, but there was like no lore, and there's a big civil war going on, of course, between the two camps, the people who believe that there's like 3 levels and the people who believe that there's infinity levels. So
it is interesting seeing those locations, because there's a lot of locations that will have that similar feel. Like, I can't think of any specifically in my life. I was gonna ask, have you, like, what is the most Backrooms experience you've had in your life?
If you go way back to our first episode, I know a whole 4 episodes ago, I was talking about how malls have these things in the middle. There are these things in the middle that our brain can't 100% comprehend. And I remember the name to those. They're called liminal spaces. Liminal spaces are actually an anthropological term, technically. It's liminal spaces a little bit more like being in between stages of your life. But they can also be utilized for like saying something like something in between 2 parts of a destination or 2 parts of a journey that doesn't really belong.
Which I think is an interesting point, because I saw a video today that was bringing an analogy to saying the Backrooms is like a metaphor for overcoming things in your life.
In a way, very much it could be.
Yeah. So would you say that time you described in episode 1 where you went to that like mall and it was like about to close or something?
It was supermarket. Actually, no. The one time I got the closest was when me and my friends, I'm also very interested in urban exploring, and the one time I've done anything close was there was this place that we used to go laser tagging. It closed down, and then me and my friends went to go film there, because we make stupid little, they're not stupid, they're fun, little like movie series and stuff. Maybe I'll talk about that at another time. But like, we went in there, and so there was a couple of notable areas. First, half of the building was still used, but the other half was like empty and was like left over from whatever time. So the first big area was this gigantic office. I'm talking one of the biggest rooms I've ever been in. Well, actually, before we got to the big office, now that I'm like thinking back, I'm like getting flashbacks to it. There was this absolutely enormous room that was just completely empty. It was easily one of the biggest rooms I've ever been in. I know I just said that about the office, but I'm talking this was just massive, but it was completely empty. And then we went up some stairs because we were looking for an office space to like film a part in, and we went upstairs, and there was like this just like half destroyed, half power was out in half of it, and then the other half it wasn't, and it was like the fluorescent lights, and it wasn't yellow, but it was like very sterile looking, but also very dirty looking,
which fits that feel very well.
Yeah. Have I told you about this before? I've told you about parts of this, I think.
Yes, you've mentioned parts of it to me, but some of this is new to me.
Because this part I'm actually just very much remembering now that I've kind of thought about it. But these were like smaller offices over the main warehouse area. And then we went in deeper, and we just found this massive office area where like everything was pushed to one side of the room, and then everything else was open. We have some interesting stories from there. Once again, there were some rooms that had it was like rug, like really dingy looking rug, and like the lights and stuff. And then I went into this. So the two bathrooms, they were obviously built in like the 50s or 60s, and they had not been updated since, or maybe 70s, but they had not been updated since then. We went into the men's room, and then I was like, screw it, I'm going to explore the women's room. I don't care. There's not going to be anybody in there. So I went in, and there was this first room. It had like a window and had some chairs around it before you actually got to the bathroom. I have a kind of an idea what that room's for. I'm not going to say it because I'm going to sound like an idiot if I get it wrong. But there was like hundreds of tiny little specks on the floor. They were probably like as big as like a thumbtack or something. And there was a ledge in front of the mirror that you could like put stuff on or whatever. And I went to go closer to the mirror and I looked, and each of those individual dots were wasps.
Oh my god.
They were dead.
Somehow that's still terrible.
Yeah, so there were just hundreds of just dead, like, curled up wasps.
Oh,
It was a little weird. And then, we went downstairs, because we were just like, screw it, we're gonna actually explore this building a little bit. We went to, like, this basement area, and it was, like, this old office from, like, the 80s or 90s. It was just these tunnels. Like, there were no windows. The main hallways had no light at all. If you went into some of the offices, you could still get some lights on. But yeah, that was kind of cursed too, but in its own way.
that's so freaky.
Yeah. Later on, my friends did some dumb stuff in there, and now we can't go back, but it was a cool experience.
I mean, it sounds like one of those places that, like, wasn't meant to be found in the first place, man.
Probably, I think now it's being turned into something. I'm not going to say what it's being turned into because that's going to, like, pinpoint me 100%.
I know we have some relatively cursed buildings on our college campus.
Yes, where the science building where the hallways tilt.
As you've said before, I've yet to experience that myself.
Okay, I'll explain real quick just so I don't sound crazy. One night I was going through, we have, like, a science building on campus. I was going through it, and it was probably like 2 o'clock in the morning. I was exhausted, but I was like, screw it, I don't want to do any work right now. I'm going to walk through the halls. And I'm walking through the halls, and all of a sudden, as I'm walking, the entirety of the hall, these are some long halls, starts tilting in front of me, and I start kind of like walking a little like to the right. I think it was a mixture of the lighting, and I was tired, and I was alone, so my mind was obviously being like, haha, you're being attacked, boy.
That's terrifying. I haven't had anything like that. The closest I've even gotten, I think, is just the mall that I think I mentioned in our first episode, where all that's open now is an arcade and a movie theater. And the rest of it, the arcade is big enough and loud enough and the mall is small enough that it's like, I don't know, you don't feel that disconnect in the rest of the mall, but it's still a little unsettling because there is still music playing.
That's a dead mall.
Yes, it's a dead mall. And so I went back last spring break. We were walking around, and the people there were like, oh, the rest of this mall is, like, closed. Like, you can't be here. Dude, time to record an episode in a dead mall.
So the acoustics in here are a little weird because it's empty.
Not to break the reality of the Backrooms, but a lot of the further levels...
Yes, such as the Rubik's Cube, level 31.
Hold on, tell me about that really quick, and then I'll make my point.
Oh, I'm looking at a list, but level 33 is called... Guess what it's called?
It's a mall!
It's the Infinite Mall.
Yes, so, level 33 is one of the many levels I wanted to mention to you of interest, because level 33 is an empty shopping mall that, under certain circumstances, eventually floods. I will admit, it is one of the right cursed places, because I don't know if I mentioned this in episode 1. Music playing in an abandoned shopping mall, kind of unsettling.
That's honestly kinda awesome.
So there's some really weird ones. Level 45 is, quoted from the wiki, appears to be an abandoned Home Depot.
The Orange Store.
Yeah, it's the Orange Store.
Okay, I'll be real with you. At first, I was very much part of, like, level 3, like the 3-level camp, but honestly, now that, like, it's going up more and more, and I'm seeing stuff that literally is just the perfect aesthetic, I'm kind of part of the unlimited floor camp now.
Another level I want to bring up that I just thought of, which is also something that I've kind of experienced, is level 5. It is a hotel from I want to say it's like the 1800s or early 1900s. That reminds me of, I went to see a musical a couple months ago, and in the theater down at the bottom, there was like a bunch of empty rooms on the way to the bathroom,
Hmm.
and rooms that were really large, and it was clear, like I realized, I was like, oh, this is probably because to give them space, to have the lines go out. But my girlfriend who I went with was like, oh no, this is where they would have like I think it was like tea sessions or whatever, because it's a very old theater.
Yeah.
But they were just giant empty rooms.
I'll be real with you. Something I find absolutely hysterical is that the pictures they use for level 5 are just pictures of the Tower of Terror.
Yes, which is one of my problems with level 5. Level 5 gets a little weird and raises a lot of questions. One of the pictures I do like is the big empty room with just like the table in the middle and the chairs.
That was cool. That was cool.
Yeah, that's a cool photo. Why do we always talk about photos on this audio medium? One of the things they mention in the description of level 5 is that there are factions in there that include people from like 1940s all the way back to the 1300s. And it says certain people like in this group or in this area are from the Titanic. They literally they were like notable people include, and one of the people is Amelia Earhart, is apparently stuck in level 5, which raises so many fascinating questions about how long have the backrooms existed, because imagine clipping in there before fluorescent lights existed.
Yeah.
Like, did the backrooms evolve over time, or and then did we steal things from the backrooms, which is an interesting idea. Like, did we copy
That's actually cool to think about.
Yeah, like, did we copy that hotel design, when we eventually adapted to that? I don't know. But it's fascinating to think about, which is why I have very mixed feelings about some of the levels. Because the mall, really cool. The orange story is interesting. Then there's stuff like this, which has cool ideas, but it starts to push to interesting levels of questionability. And then there's stuff... there's stuff that I don't like as much. There's like a racetrack level where there's a faction that holds regular races where you can win items. And then I'm sitting and I'm like, people really want this to be a video game. Because, like, that sentence to me was like, that doesn't sound like something that people would be doing. Because, like, they're not terrible to get. There is a level that is, I believe, 412 called the Snack Rooms.
No, 412 is the racetrack.
Yes, I'm sorry. 412 is the racetrack. The Snack Rooms is separate. But in the racetrack, it's, I don't know, like, that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Because I was like, I know it's a cool idea to think of it as a video game, but then you get a different feeling from it,
Yeah, one of my favorites is that I'm looking at right now. I like just level 11, which is the Endless City. Sounds really cool.
So level 10 or level 9, one of them is Suburbs.
Yeah, that's level 9.
Which is something that's always kind of sat wrong with me. Suburbs at night can be pretty creepy. But then that next step is the Endless City, which I have mixed feelings about too. I like it, but I have to see more pictures of it, if that makes sense. Because the pictures, like, sell me sometimes. There's something called the Metro, which takes you between levels. There's a specific order it takes you, but it is not at all linear. One of the things I like about it is it doesn't really feel linear, because a lot of the levels skip over each other or bring you back to other places, and they also aren't linear in their level of difficulty, which is nice. I like the idea there's something called the End, which is like a fake ruse to make you think you've gotten out, and it's this empty library, and there's a chance it even just takes you to a fake reality that like torments you forever, which is terrifying.
We love that.
And then there's the weird stuff that's just like kind of makes it more the word that's coming to mind is objective, because there's like a room that's like has a map of everything, and then there's the hub, and I don't know, it takes something away from me because it feels like there's too much order, I think is what it is. I do really like, there's a couple of decimal levels that are in between. One of them, not one of the official ones obviously, but it's level 7.5, and it's literally just a famous Windows screensaver.
Oh, is it just the what's it called? Is it just the maze? You said 7.5, right?
Yeah, what it is it's a great screensaver that I used to have that I love. It's a brick maze with wood floors and I think brick ceiling or something like that, gray ceiling. And there's rats. There's every once in a while a picture of a Lego globe on the walls. And there's this diamond thing that flips the whole map upside down. And then the way you win is you get to a smiley face, and then that ends the level and it generates a new one.
Yes.
Hard to describe, but it has such a great feeling to it that I adore. And I was just reading the description. There was no pictures. I'm reading the description, and it starts describing that, and I'm like, there's no way. It's just the screensaver. And it was. There's like the negative levels, which have untextured beings and glitches.
Yeah, and then there's the classic level 1.5, which is inescapable.
But I don't know, there's just some contradictory things too, I feel like, or stuff that doesn't really add up. Because there are some levels that, like, they've, calculated the chance of you getting to this level when only 2 people have gotten there, and again, it feels like we're not supposed to understand the Backrooms.
Oh, definitely.
But then there's also levels where it's like, this level isn't confirmed because only 34 people got there. And I'm like, 34 is a lot of people.
Only 34 people have gotten there. 14 came back. Items. I'm going to look at items. There's keys, technology.
The main source of sustenance in the Backrooms is almond water.
Super almond water.
There is super almond water. It's basically just like a health potion, but every once in a while there's a chance that it will have the effects of marijuana, which is interesting. But almond water is like specifically found on certain levels. You can trade for it in places.
The only way to get super almond water is by lasting 30 minutes in level -0.
There's levels with Wi-Fi. There are people who communicate back regularly, which I also don't know how I feel about that. Because one of the things I really like about the Backrooms is that it's something that you can very feasibly get out of. So it's just creepy enough that you might get stuck there for a while, but like it's pretty feasible that you will escape eventually.
I think it needs a book.
Well, I was gonna ask you, if you were to make an adaptation of the Backrooms, initially I was thinking like movie, but like a game or like book, like what would you center it around, you know?
If I was gonna do a game, it would just be a very randomly generated type thing that I would just want to kind of like add some levels to, but it would just be really hard to do to make sizable.
I think it'd be a really cool MMO. If we were going to include all the levels and the other people, it would be a cool MMO.
I think you would have to do it as like a video series of some sort. Because I feel like you would have to like just use different like you would literally just have to use urban exploring. You would just have to urban explore around and film stuff and just pretend you were in the Backrooms.
Which would be really cool because people have gotten there, but most of the media made around it is about level 0 because, you know, it's the iconic one for a good reason. I feel like a movie adaptation in the wrong hands could go so easily poorly.
Oh well, yeah. You would have to have too much of a plot.
Oh yeah.
You know.
You can't risk that human element impacting and affecting the Backrooms themselves.
Like, there has to be the isolation in it.
That too, you're right. You're very right. It kind of loses it when you're not alone in there. Because I know in looking on the wiki, there was a thing that was listed under joke rooms, but it was the description of the true Backrooms, which said, you know, there is an interpretation that there's only the 3 main Backrooms and that only one person can go in at a time. While there are contradictory things, they do a good job of giving things that need an explanation, if that makes sense.
Yeah, pretty much.
They don't over-explain certain things, but like things like, I don't know, like that, like how it's contested is a nice touch that I'm glad they added. I will say, this is a tangent, but in doing research for this, there is a video clip from the kids show Sid the Science Kid, where he phases through the wall and like phases into the Backrooms or whatever. I've never seen the show, but I thought it was pretty funny. But I was looking at the original clip for that, and it's basically Sid the Science Kid goes up to his parents and goes, "Time to ask my mom and dad an important question. Where am I from?" And they're both like, And then his mom's like, "Well, I think we should be honest with him." And his dad's like, "Alright, Sid, if you walk through that wall right there, you'll find out right where you came from." And Sid's like, "Yeah." And then Sid just phases through the wall, and it's a whole like behind the scenes animation thing, whatever. But then he comes back, and he's like, he's like, I don't like this. I didn't want to know this. I don't want to remember this. And his dad's like, "Don't worry, you won't have to." And his dad and mom pull out sunglasses and the neuralizer from Men in Black and wipe his memory. I'm not kidding.
Is this from the actual show? I'm confused.
Yes! This is the real scene! I've never seen the show, but the fact that exists in a show for very young children, that the protagonist gets memory wiped Men in Black style, that's amazing.
That's so odd.
It's so weird.
Okay, so I'm looking at level 0, and it says that there are colonies, and I'm not down with that.
Yeah, there's literally named colonies that are like famous for doing certain things. I don't know, and I guess I can appreciate that one of them is dedicated to research, but then it starts to, I don't know, it feels like it starts to border too much on SCP for me. Like, one of the things that impresses me about this so much is it's such its own unique thing that has a feeling that's a little too real to it. I don't know. I hope we're highlighting some interesting, more obscure things about this, because there's a lot of media covering this, and I wanted to shout out some of the more interesting side levels. There is a level infinity, and what I like about that is that it's not really infinity, it's just an absurdly high number
Mm-hmm.
that they rounded up, which I think is just a nice touch.
Yeah, the squared rooms. Squared rooms are an unknown phenomenon in which you will reach a level that is the square root of the level you were just on, such as if you were on level 8, you would get on level 2.8, whatever the square root of 8 is. But this phenomenon has only been recorded 34 times.
Oh, goodness. This is under the oddball levels, but there is a level pi. This level only has one corridor. It's seemingly infinite. No entity is recorded. Your only hope is death. Time does not work here. You have infinite energy. Good luck. I keep seeing a lot of references in this wiki that are just like about computers and terminals that have certain programs that if you run them, it'll do this. It'll take you to a different level or stuff like that. It's interesting.
Hello and welcome to, I'm going to create my own level. That's what we should do.
Yes, okay. What is your own Backrooms level?
Alright, so, my Backrooms level would be, it's, you drop into a forest, right? And there's paths everywhere. And then you're walking through, and you're walking, and it seems like forever, but if you are lucky enough, and it's very hard to do this, but if you're lucky enough, you will end up at a little cottage, right, in the forest. It's like a little fantasy cottage. And if you knock on the door, a benevolent being will come out, and his name is Old Man Spankers. Do you want some potatoes? This is, that's level 133.
I'm trying to think of real life like stores and locations that would be a lot creepier if there was no one there. I mean, there was a time when I saw Into the Spider-Verse in the theaters for the first time. It was opening night, the Thursday night that it came out, and there was no one there. It was just my friend and I. We were in the very, very bottom of the theater, and it was dark and we couldn't see anyone. And here's the thing, we walked in and there were no trailers playing, which always happens at that theater that we go to. And we sat there for like 10 minutes and we were like, okay, this is interesting. Finally, eventually, the movie starts. No trailers, nothing. Straight into the movie. And I don't know if you know or remember, but the opening to Into the Spider-Verse is just this slow build of like noise that just gets really loud and it's like kind of distorted effects on the screen. Dude, it was unsettling.
Y'all thought you hit like level 3 billion or something.
Yeah, cause like I was gonna say an abandoned movie theater isn't that creepy, but I take it back. That scenario was a little bit. Dude, I wish people knew the building that 218, the Holy 218, resides in. Half of that building could be its own Backrooms room. I think that's mine. I think
true.
long halls of college dorms. Like the walls aren't consistent. They're partially
I
brick.
forgot about that.
But there's one door. This is based on a real place. There's one door that's just surrounded by wood paneling that's so out of place. The bathroom is just. There's something off about it. It's like a little too sterile, but also kind of dirty. There's little side rooms that are like hangout spaces with just one chair in there. That's my pitch right there. And I'm gonna call it level 218.
Dude.
There's one room. You can't. A lot of the dorm rooms are locked, but there's one room that is guaranteed to be unlocked, and it's 218. And if you go in there, it's us recording podcasts for eternity.
But there's like something slightly wrong about us.
Of course. I mean, there already is something slightly wrong about us, so that's just reality.
Nah, but at least we're like human. Like this is just some weird. Like they're like. Roo. But if you do check in the fridge that is in that room, you can find almond water as well as York peppermint patties.
Of course.
I think the York peppermint patties are still in there, and the peppermint creams.
I believe they are.
I gotta think. I really gotta think. Cause like this is. I guess it would be like the tunnels from that office building, but it's like not like an office building. It's like endless tunnels, and there's like office places, but they're like all really dark, and you're lucky if you can turn a light on and stuff. I don't know.
I like that idea that it's like it feels like it should be an office building, but it's just not quite. I really like that. It could be some variation on level 4. It's like level 4B.
It's infinite bowling alleys.
Dude, an infinite bowling alley?
Yeah.
But it's like it's a bowling alley that's just slightly out of date. It's like, well, not slightly, but it's a few good years out of date. And you can bowl. Like all the bowling alleys work. There's no one working there, but you can still bowl.
And you had better hope that you don't get found by one of the walking, talking bowling pins.
Oh, who are just really low poly.
Oh yeah, it's perfect.
I would not survive in the bowling alley in level
1998.
I love it. I think that's it. Level 1998, level 4B, and level 218. We got 3 great pitches for you right there.
Oh, and level 133. Don't forget about level 133.
You're right, I'm sorry.
I like how level 60 is just an abandoned home that stretches for miles.
I wish we could go through all these. I wish we could just go down the line. I think we covered the best ones.
Yeah, there's also one called Endless Shopping Center. The picture from it is super mall soft.
A classic beloved theme for our podcast. Which number is this?
Oh, 72.
Oh, there's a level 1818, which is like a recolored level 0. I will say, one last shout out on my part. Level 65 is random elevators, and the sentence is, despite having no known creatures other than death rats. What?
Dude,
What?
It's me. I am the death rat.
I forgot one of the creatures is called the Skin Stealer.
Are those the ones that pretend to be people for like a really long time?
No, those are something else. There is a creature that is just a parrot, and his name is Jerry.
Yes, and he will take you over. He'll be like, "What's up, gamer?"
What's up, gamer? Just like, please look into some of these, because if you're interested, there's some fascinating stuff here.
I think I've found my new favorite creature name. Oh my goodness, the Ayukthiogdgreg.
What's that?
It's unknown what they look like. The first type, but then the second look human, but with literally 2 pupils. Don't we all have 2 pupils?
I mean, not in general, yes.
No, but it doesn't say 2 pupils in each eye. It just says with literally 2 pupils.
It has a normal number of pupils.
It literally has 2. Dude, it literally has 2 pupils. I don't know what you want. And then the other one is called Ngwithrzerth. It looks like a giant spider, but instead with 16 legs.
Oh, that's delicious.
Dude, that's me.
So apparently in level 50, there's this entity called the Infinity Beast that's supposed to be like the final boss.
Dude, I had 1v1 one of those things, dude. It's gonna catch these hands.
Any other last rooms you want to cover here, or creatures, entities?
No, I just kind of want to talk about it. It's a really cool concept, and I really like the idea, the aesthetic.
Yeah.
Of just all of it.
It's fantastic. It's so cool. Even reading about the other stuff, as much as we might trash on it, it's still fascinating.
Oh yeah.
Like, I want to sit down and just go through all of these levels, and I wish there was somebody who made a video series, even just reading these Wikipedia pages, because it's so cool.
It might have to be us.
It might have to. If people are interested, if people enjoyed this episode and they want us to talk more about this, we will. We will read every single page on this Wikipedia.
And we will talk about them. It'll be a whole separate podcast.
Dude, I totally would do a Backrooms podcast. Get involved in us in discussions. You can hit us up on Twitter at 218timepod. Thanks for joining me as always, my wonderful co-host. And Godspeed.
Our reservoir.